everyone. This is little Miss Saka. You know her. You love her. And she's a sleepy girl today. I've been sleeping. Hey, so I just came off of a super, super exciting, career-defining, biggest event I've ever hosted in my life week. And it was the Getaway. It was a workshop, a styled shoot, a retreat, all in one for female business owners, not just here in Central Ohio, but like anyone was invited. But female business owners ready to specifically get into nitty-gritty strategies and details about their business and to nourish their mind, body, soul, and business to help sustain this next season of their life. It was so much fun. It was so much fun, you guys. And you would be like, India, I've seen you be posting about this. I saw you like yapping about this on Instagram. Do I really have to listen to a whole nother podcast episode about it? Yeah, you do. I mean, you have free will, so you don't have to. You can always just scooch a little butt on to the next episode. But if you're a photographer specifically, whether you attended the event or not, today I want to talk to my photographers and my photography educators. Maybe some of y'all who are getting into hosting your own events. This episode's for you. Or if you're just curious about what this looks like, how you end up kind of getting into live events and in-person stuff, this is for you. I have attended numerous styled shoots around the country. I've hosted dozens of styled shoots now myself. So I have some tips on what makes them actually awesome versus the ones that make you kind of want to ask for a refund. So I have thoughts, and I thought this would be an episode and a really just practical space for photographers and photography educators who want to learn how to make your own styled shoot even better. So with that, let's jump in and get right to it.
Creatives, are you struggling to keep up with all your clients' needs? Maybe you feel like you're swimming through emails, DMs, texts, and feel like there's no way to keep communication together. Not to mention keeping track of payments, invoices, contracts, and having to freak out at 2 a.m. because you forgot to email a lead client back. Yikes! My entire workflow shifted when I stopped DIYing my approach and switched to HoneyBook. They are a powerhouse CRM, client relations management tool, if you didn't know, that acts as a coworker you've always needed. HoneyBook helps with invoicing, payment tracking, contracts for every session under the sun, scheduling, lead forms, automations, and streamlining communication to one stop for you. Not to mention your clients will notice the professional difference you bring to the table with the HoneyBook tools. If you're ready to step up your business and feel peace of mind with your client's approach, I have an exclusive offer for you. As a thank you for listening to the India and Stuff show, take 50% off your first year of HoneyBook by going to share.honeybook.com/IndiaJadePhoto. Or if you're like me and that's way too much to remember, just tap the URL in the show notes. Now back to the show.
All right, to start right off, just giving a little extra context if you're new here, I'm India. I have been a wedding photographer for over 12 years, which is insane to say. I know that sounds crazy. I started as a teenager and it just kind of took off from there. I've seen a lot in my 12 years experience as a photographer. I've done everything under the sun, from corporate events to product photos to photos of Airbnbs while we're traveling to headshots, seniors, maternity, family, everything. Pretty much everything you could hire a photographer to do. I've done it. I've seen it. But specifically these days, I've been niched down into couples and weddings. There's a whole reasoning behind that, but I just found that I loved being with people on a wedding day. I love kind of bringing a non-anxious, there we go, presence to someone's wedding day, which can be a little stressful at times. I love the art direction of that. I love the vision of it. I love celebrating love with my couples and just getting to know them over the process of doing an engagement session, being there on their wedding day, celebrating this like huge milestone for them. And then maybe, you know, anniversary photos and really getting invested in their story and like actually documenting it down the line. So that's kind of me. I branched into education a couple years ago when I started realizing, hey, like I'm pretty much self-taught with this. I did go to college, but not for photography. I took several photography classes, but I didn't really major or minor in it. And there's so much that I wish my college, classes covered, practical information that is just missing when you're actually a commercial photographer, when you own your own photography business, that I didn't get in college. And there's just so much that we all have to give. I think branching into education was super scary because I was like, who am I to teach? However, I've always felt like I'm a natural leader, and I don't know, I like helping people. And if I can bridge a gap for someone or provide information where they're going, wait a second, I'm scratching my head, like, how do you do this? I feel like I've got my own systems down, and I was like, I have something to give. Like, here, even if you're not 120 steps ahead of someone, even if you're just 10 steps ahead of them, you have something to give. Does that make sense? So I started doing education a couple years ago. I think I started with just offering mentorship sessions after, my dozenth time getting asked out to coffee for someone to pick my brain. I was like, all right, I'm happy to give you some tips, and I'm always down to like collaborate with someone or get to know someone over coffee. But there is a line of, you wouldn't just ask a surgeon out to coffee and then proceed to ask all the questions and want all the training and formal information that you would get from medical school, right? You would actually have to at some point say, hey, thanks for this info. It looks like I'm going to need something more. So I started asking for just basically offering coaching and like one-on-one coaching sessions. And I do another thing called a mentorship suite where people can do a 3-series session of coaching with me that's longer. There's more notes, there's homework, it's more intentional, focused in on their business. And then you can also do like a one-off coaching session. So I started doing education in that realm. And then a few years into that, after I attended many styled shoots around the country, I think I attended one in Salt Lake City, Charleston, South Carolina, the Salt Flats in Utah. I kind of started, I attended a couple here in Columbus, Ohio. That's pretty much it. I started then like hosting my own. I would call friends when we were going on a trip, gather them and do a styled shoot of my own. And then I started partnering with a wedding planner, and we went even bigger. We went to Banff, Canada. We went to Italy, and started doing even bigger styled shoots. So somewhere along the line, I was like, I should start actually like selling tickets to this. So I did one last year at the Getaway at Hocking Hills. That was my first big styled shoot. I did several smaller styled shoots, much more casual, that people could attend. One was in two were with partnership with Canon, which was a really fun experience to work with your camera brand like Canon. Hey, shout out to you guys. And I started teaching classes with a local studio called Midwest Photo. So that's kind of how I got into this. Started as a photographer, started realizing I've got a little more to give, offered some coaching. After attending my own styled shoots, started offering styled shoots and classes and things like that. So that's my street cred. If you're like, who are you and why do you get to talk about this? I have a little expertise. I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. And I've attended some really expensive styled shoots where I was left disappointed, honestly. I won't get into too many details, but some of the common themes I've noticed is I attended a pretty high-end styled shoot, and it's a wedding industry shoot, right? So you need a bride and a groom couple as advertised. That's what you're going to photograph. And gorgeous bride model, gorgeous groom model. The only problem, they didn't know each other at all. They're just hired models. So the intimacy is gone, right? They don't know each other. You can't have them kiss. And if you do, they're uncomfortable. So you don't want them to feel uncomfortable. Things like that, right? There's a couple elements that I go, okay, I paid how much for not even a real couple who has no chemistry and no desire to stand more than an inch away from each other. That's a little weird. I went to another styled shoot, the most I've ever paid to go to a styled shoot, and the dress did not fit. It was about 2 feet too long on the bottom of the model. The groom's suit didn't fit. He didn't even have like a formal wedding suit, and it was marketed as a luxury styled shoot. A little yikesy. No professional hair and makeup artist. A lot of details missing. Not a lot to actually photograph. The weather got in the way. Kind of not the best idea in the world. So since I've seen some of those things, I was like, okay, taking notes. When I do my own styled shoots, I don't want them to go like that. Even if something happens like weather, how do I make sure I have a backup plan to pivot on a dime so that people who are paying me money to learn and to get portfolio are not left disappointed? So I have some tips for you today, but before I dive into those, I actually asked you on my Instagram to send in your questions about styled shoots, how I host them, what I think about them. And I've got just a few questions. If I get more questions, I will just add them to the comments, like your question and my answer. But at this time, I had a few that I wanted to address. The first one is, how far in advance did you contact vendors outside of the venue? This is a great one. This time around for the getaway, for the big styled shoot portion, I started contacting vendors about four or 5 months out, I would say, in January and February. And the shoot was in May. So the reason being, people book out, especially wedding vendors, book out way earlier than you realize. I book out, like, personally with my clients between like 18 and 20 months away from a date. I try not to book out more than 2 years in advance because it is really hard to kind of like rationalize what you're going to be doing in 2 years. But it's very, very common, like if January 2025 hits, that you're starting to book fall of 2026. That's like pretty standard, at least for me. I would say when you're edging into these luxury spaces, especially, people are booking their weddings at least a year out in advance, saving a lot of money for it and investing a lot into those vendors. So it's pretty common to push pretty far out. And I knew a lot of the vendors I wanted to partner with were luxury vendors and high up vendors for the area we live in. So yeah, I could have obviously contacted them sooner and done it all sooner, but I booked the venue, one of the venues, almost, I want to say 9 months in advance. That was where we stayed, because it was two things. There was like a lodge where we stayed at. I did one styled shoot there, and then another wedding venue. I did another styled shoot there. So the lodge we stayed at, I booked out 9 months in advance. And then probably 5 months in advance, I booked out the actual wedding venue. And then that same month, probably February, I booked our makeup artist, hair artist, and then the florist. Wedding planner I had been working with the whole time, so kind of about 9 or 8 months out. And then I think maybe 1 month out, maybe 1 or 2 months, I locked in all the models. A stylist, we worked with a stylist, a dress boutique owner, that was really helpful, and a suit. She sells suits as well. So yeah, I would say it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and everyone's different. I have thrown together like very casual styled shoots within 3 weeks. You know, it doesn't have to be always super elaborate, but for a wedding one, time is your best friend. You know, and even though we book things out in advance, I'll give you a story. We were going to work with a drapery company that does like really luxury drapery design. It's a very popular wedding trend here in 2025. And so we had chatted with someone, my event planner was talking to them. He said yes, he was willing to do it and for free, which is awesome. And then he kind of ghosted, and we're sending out the details and we're trying to make sure he's on board and give him the arrival time. Ghosted. So we end up giving him a call, and he goes, yeah, I know I said I would do this, but I'm not interested anymore. And we were like, oh, okay, like we have a budget for this. Instead of doing it for free, would you like us to pay your team? And he goes, yeah, no. Like, okay, not even interested in making some money. And mind you, this was on a weekday. This wasn't like a, Saturday or a Sunday in prime wedding season. We were asking to pay him money for his services in the middle of a week. And he was like, no, thanks. To each their own. So that was about 2 weeks before the event. And so we had to pivot really quickly. I put something on Instagram, which you could say, oh, that's kind of unprofessional. Like, don't tell everybody that you had something fall through. But to me, I'm like, I would rather be transparent and be able to possibly find a solution versus hide everything and not ask for help and then be sloppy on the day of and disappoint someone. You know what I mean? And I'm glad I posted about it, because one of the girls who already bought a ticket to attend the styled shoot messaged me and was like, hey, I know how to do drapery pretty well. If you guys end up buying your own stuff, I can help you set it up. Fantastic. I offered to pay her a little extra for her time. All good. So I ended up buying drapery supplies on Amazon. I think it was less than $200, and they were some pretty nice stuff. We made a pretty nice thing. Maybe I'll put a little picture in here to show you. But yeah, shout out to Samantha. She helped us out the day of in our event team. Like we got it pretty much set up. She helped us out and I was able to, give her that money and Amazon that money instead of a local business, but still. So you just have to kind of develop that skill of knowing, like, if you're going to wait until a little closer to the day to get all your details in a row, things will still happen. I guess even when you book it in advance, things will still happen. So have a contact list, have a backlist. Another example is I had a wedding makeup artist on deck to do this. And then we ended up adding an extra couple as a surprise to our clients or to, the people who bought tickets. We were going to surprise them by saying, oh, hey, there's another couple coming. So you thought you were just going to get 2 couples at the styled shoot. Plot twist, you get 3. And when I solidified that, I knew there was a list of makeup artists who had reached out and said they were wanting to participate. And I was able to go down that list and say, hey, it's your time. Hop on in. Let's do this. So just have a list of vendors you want to work with and I don't know, just kind of keep it in mind that it is a collaborative thing. It does take a lot of people to do one successfully, but you could also keep it very casual and have a really nice experience as well. So take that for what it is. Okay. I got another question on, do you pay your vendors or do they volunteer for you? Great question. I say the answer is both. The reason is I believe in making sure my people are taken care of. As a vendor myself, I love it when people give me a little cash. I love it when I say yes to something because I think it would just be a good experience or it's, to be honest, portfolio I want anyway. And then at the end of the day, they give me a goodie bag or, a little, even like a $50 tip or something. To me, that feels nice to be taken care of because you don't want to be asked and there's a time and place, right? You might do services for free to get your foot in the door and keep going or for exposure. And some of the vendors will approach it that way. Some vendors love doing styled shoots just for free and to collaborate. I've done several as a photographer for free. Like certain venues have approached me and said, hey, like we're doing a styled shoot. They're not asking me to buy a ticket. They're like, would you be the exclusive photographer for it? So I don't receive money, but I also don't pay money. I'm usually like, yeah, I'll do that. However, I don't want to assume that that's anyone's approach. I never want to take advantage of my vendor peers or people that I meet in this industry. And who doesn't want to like hire their friends? When you start meeting people that are kind and work hard, it's like, I don't want to take advantage of you and ask you for a favor. So what I usually do is ask them what their rate is for a styled shoot. Most of them will be like, hey, here's the number. And that's what it is. And I'll pay that number. Or if it doesn't fit my budget, I'll find someone else and I'll let them know that too. I love transparency in the industry. I would rather say, hey, like, thank you so much. Totally respect that. It's just outside of my budget, but I'll keep you in mind for the next one. And then others will respond with like, hey, I'd love to participate. No budget from like, no need to, budget anything for me. I'll do it for free or I'll do it in exchange for the photos or whatever that is. Always at least offer, I think, to pay them. I think that's just a courtesy thing. If it's something that you're selling tickets for, offer to pay them. If it's something that you're just doing because you just want a little portfolio of your own, you're not trying to make a profit off of this, you're not trying to solve the world's problems. If you're just like, hey, I got the creative itch last night and I was wondering about this concept and I saw you posted this gorgeous makeup look. Do you think like we could find a model? Do you know anyone? If that's the vibe, pitch it that way. And I think you can definitely collaborate together where everyone's coming together and making something awesome. But for me in this stage, especially if I'm like, I'm going to be selling tickets and making a little bit of profit, not a lot of profit because everything's expensive, but I do think it's wise to kind of approach your vendor friends that way and ask what their budget is for a service like this and make sure you offer them at least, the reciprocal of you'll get all the photos and tagging rights from me and all the attendees. Like that's like the minimum to make sure that it's worth their time as well. Okay.
Have you been dreaming up a photography business but have no idea where to start? Okay, because I think I have something that will change the game for you. Whether your goal is to launch a full-time photography business and shoot luxury weddings all across the world, or simply start a side hustle to bring in a little extra cash in this crazy economy, India Jade EDU is here to help you thrive. Yes, I am talking about getting yourself a photography coach. And lucky for you, I offer just that. You can choose between a 60-minute one-on-one session or a 3-part coaching call suite for more time to learn at your very own pace. In either coaching offer, we can cover all your questions from camera settings to workflow, honeybook setup, finances, pricing, social media marketing, copywriting, blogging 101, Pinterest, SEO, brand auditing, and website creation. Literally, you name it, and I will help you walk away with a clear strategy and practical tools to move the needle and kickstart your business. As a thank you to listening to the show, take 10% off your coaching call. Head to indiajadephoto.com/edu to get started, and make sure you mention the show in the inquiry form. That's indiajadephoto.com/edu.
Someone else asked, how would you approach a family session styled shoot? I'm mostly concerned about getting families on board and not overwhelming the kids, but making it worthwhile for other photographers. Great question. I'm not a family photographer, so I would love to see what other family photographers want to say to this question. To me, I would say the first thing I would think of is, could we do an older set of kids? Like, if it doesn't have to be 4 and 2-year-olds, you'll probably get like a little better of cooperation from a little bit of the older kiddos, like maybe ages 6 through 12. Or even teenagers and preteens. Like, if it doesn't quite matter the age of the kids, I would personally start by looking for maybe middle range, middle school age kids. I think that would bring much better cooperation, especially if it's over an hour long. Little kids don't want to sit for something like that and listen to directions. So I'd start with a higher age. If you can't do that, or if you're really like, hey, I want to provide education for young kids, and so these photographers can learn with young kids, I think that'd be really helpful, especially for myself. I'm like, how do you photograph these young kiddos? Would it be possible to bring in a family that you know? Like maybe your nieces and nephews, maybe your cousins. Like, if the kids know you, I think that changes the game, because if you're hosting this event and they know and trust you and they're used to having you there and your camera there, it's going to probably go a lot smoother than if it was just a random volunteer family. I would also say another tip would be maybe to buy disposable cameras, or give them your old cameras to the kids. Like, let the kids play with cameras, maybe even beforehand, like do a trial run. But I think giving those cameras to the kids, even if it's for just like 10 minutes of the session, would help them understand what's happening. If you go, hey, like, I would love to take some pictures of you guys playing with these berries on this picnic blanket, but first, would you take some? Here's a camera for you. You look through here and you click it here. I think that would help them rationalize what's happening. And those pictures could be really fun as well. I think it'd be like really wise to use kids you already know, see if you could age up. And if not, see if you can give them activities that help them understand what's going on. Even cute Polaroids or those Instax cameras. I think all of that would be really fun for those kids to like learn and play and feel like they're a part of the shoot too, and not just like models. But yeah, for now, that's what I've got. I would also say, thinking of family, you could do a whole maternity styled shoot, like the Fresh 48 kind of shoots with his little baby. You could do a whole thing with that. The one other piece of advice I would give is just make sure, if you're going to host a styled shoot featuring minors and kids, make sure you send a model release form that explicitly says the parents are giving consent for their kids' face and likeness to be posted online. I know a lot of kids, young kids and parents with young kids feel some kind of way with the way internet's going and AI and everything. So just make sure that's understood, because you wouldn't want all these people to attend your styled shoot, photograph a beautiful family, and then after the event, the family goes, hey, we're uncomfortable with our kid's face being everywhere. So just something to note. Okay, let's get into it. We are going to go pretty quickly through this list, but here are my 15 tips on how to make a styled shoot that doesn't suck. First of all, my number one tip, and I learned this in college, do something extra. We called it surprise and delight in college. If you, like I kind of mentioned this, if your attendees are anticipating photographing 2 couples, make it 3. If they're anticipating having a flat lay station with beautiful invitations and ribbons, add extra stamps and extra florals that they can play with. I had 2 stationaries, so it wasn't just one set of invitations. They got to play with 2. I didn't have just one styling mat. I had 2 double-sided, so they had 4 options to play with. I think those little surprise and delight things go so much further than people realize. You want to under-promise what you're giving someone and over-deliver. On the same vein of that, I didn't tell people we were going to have a cake to photograph, and we had a cake. Yes, it was an extra expense on my end, but one that I was glad to do to help up-level the overall experience. I think the attendees were anticipating one tablescape, one sweetheart one long tablescape, one sweetheart tablescape, and a ceremony space. I surprised them with the extra drapery and did 2 different ceremony space layouts with a whole slew of ceremony flowers and florals. And then we had a 3rd station that they were not expecting at all, with live colorful flowers and a chair set up so that we could do regal portraits with this model. You know what I mean? So there were several, I think that's 5 or 6 surprises right there that were not advertised. I didn't guarantee those were happening. But then to have everyone who paid, a decent amount to invest in this day come into the room and see that it wasn't just exactly what was promised, A to B, it was above and beyond. If I do say so myself, that's just the kind of environment I want to cultivate, is I want them to feel extra taken care of. Something else that happened on our day, and this is just a thank you to the florist, because surprisingly, this I've been to some side shoots where they don't let you do this. We paid for the flowers and the floral team to bring all these gorgeous arrangements. Sometimes when you pay a florist, they will still ask for those flowers back. I don't think that's the best practice, but it's happened twice on style shoots that I've personally paid for. And I don't love that, because it's I'm paying you $800 for these flowers. Afterwards, we should get to keep them, right? Just like any other day. So this year, the florist who I worked with was amazing. And she was like, oh yeah, you can just let them all take the flowers on the way out. So I didn't tell anyone that till the end. And then I was like, hey, build a bouquet on your way out. Here's some, tissues, grab your favorite stems and make sure everyone gets a couple. Don't be greedy, but grab some stems and leave. And that was fun. And that was a really nice treat for everyone, because not only did they get the networking, the actual styled shoe, above and beyond features about it, but then they all got to leave with fresh flowers. As a girly, that's the cutest thing ever. Okay. Tip number 2, have snacks. Have snacks for your models. Bring a whole case of water for the vendors, the models, the attendees. And again, another above and beyond, they were expensive, but I ordered chocolate covered strawberries so everyone could take those and a slice of cake home. Slay. Not gonna lie, I'm really proud of that, because you go to these things, and this one was pretty far away from Columbus. It was about an hour of a drive. It's in the middle of the day. It's after lunch. You're in that mid-afternoon slump. My vendor team, my hair and makeup artist, has been on their feet all morning. The models have been sitting in chairs all morning. And so you just have to take care of your people. Whether or not they're getting paid $200 for their service or volunteered for free, take care of your people. It's just a rule of thumb. And so I figured for the vendors, for sure, there was snacks galore and water, but also for my attendees, again, I wanted to make this experience really great for them and made sure they all left happy. So it's worth it. Okay, I already talked about this one, but pay your people, or at least tip your vendors if they're offering to do a service for free. It's just courtesy. You would want to be treated that way too, even if it's a $5 tip or it's a Starbucks gift card or something like that. I was able to do more than that this year, which was nice, but even if it's something small, I actually made handmade wine glasses. I did a glass engraving on every wine glass for all my vendors too, as an extra thank you of just saying hey, this is the least I can do. Like, you got your snacks, you got your water, you got a tip, but also here's a little goodie. Like, thank you for doing this. That stuff I think just like helps them feel extra taken care of. Another tip on vendors, work with nice vendors and work with vendors you've worked with before. Now, I know you can't always do that. It's okay. But I would say like every single vendor that I worked with on this last styled shoot, I've worked with in some capacity before. Whether it was a wedding that I shot and they were one of the vendors, or it was at a different styled shoot and I was shooting their work, whatever it was, most of the people there I had worked with in some capacity. I think every single one except the models. And that really helps. It helps because, again, if you're charging money and people are attending, you don't want to say yes to a vendor you've never worked with before or just don't know from a hole in the ground. And then what if they do a really bad job? Like, you want to trust them as a person and trust their expertise as a wedding vendor. It just helps it go a lot more smoothly on the wedding or on the shoot day. Another tip, play music. We were in a beautiful venue, but it was very echoey. And as soon as everyone got in there, I just heard the chatter bouncing off the walls. And I immediately went up to the venue team and I was like, do we have a speaker? Like, can we turn something on? It took them a minute. They were like, we can't find it. And I was like, oh no. But I was like, we need music because it's going to fill in those dull moments. And with how loud it can get when you're in a echoey room with 30 people, I really didn't want it to feel overwhelming for the models. And so I tried to keep everyone's like tone low and polite. And then at least there's like calming jazz in the background. And that really helped. My other suggestion, if you're hosting a styled shoot, keep a timer. It's not to stress people out. And I know that styled shoots can get a little overstimulating, overwhelming, especially if you're like a documentary photographer and you're not someone who wants to like jump in there and give them the poses and push elbows with other photographers. Like, that's not your style. And it shouldn't be. Like, I really don't like the culture of like a swarm of flies around this gorgeous model couple, all this pressure. So I'm trying as best as I can as a host and an educator to help that not be the case. So I set a timer on my phone. I gave the expectation of like, all right, here's groups. I split everyone into 4 groups. So they were smaller. It was like no more than 4 photographers in each group. And I was like, all right, we're going to do 2 minutes where it's you 4. And then when that 2 minutes is off, we're going to switch and it's you 4. You get 20 minutes total, 2 different times. So you will get this couple at least for 40 minutes throughout the day. But we have to do smaller increments. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming for every photographer. They're not all going to get the shots they need. And sometimes we've got big personalities or very, very experienced photographers that'll take the lead. And then the less experienced ones are in the back feeling a little disappointed. So I would set my timer and then I would kind of notice people who were kind of in the back or maybe not getting the angle they need. And I would say, hey, if you've been in the front for a while, go ahead and take a couple steps back, let someone else take the lead. Just not to micromanage, but just to make sure everyone's getting what they need. I'll admit, even as a host, I don't think I was able to get every single shot that I was hoping for because it's not my time to do that. Like, I didn't want to, push everyone out of the way and get my shot. I think I got plenty of what I wanted, but I was like, you paid for this, so I need to keep a timer and kind of keep my eyes on everything so that you have a good experience versus making sure I get the best content in the room because I'm the one who's profiting off of it. I don't want to be that way. You guys paid to be here. Make sure you get what you need. And if not, come to me with a problem and I'll fix it. Okay. Another thing kind of on the same line is encourage collaboration. I started off by introducing myself and giving a, kind of a disclaimer of like, hey, if you haven't been to one of these before, it can get that way. It can get a little wacky. So please collaborate with each other. I had this huge flat lay station. I was like, if you see someone else setting up something amazing, photograph it and then set up your own thing. Work on an idea together. If you see a corner that you really like and your whole group wants to move the models there, do it. Find a pose or a positioning or the light that works best for you all and bounce ideas off each other. The thing is, we have so much to learn in a room. Even me, like someone who's 12 years into the industry, every time I go into a setting with other photographers, I'm learning something else too. Never think that you're past the stage of learning because I think that's when you stop being creative. So I think if we all come in with a collaboration mindset, not like I paid $500 and I'm going to get what I need, but more so like, hey, what do you have to give? Oh, that's so cool. That's your style. Hey, what if we try this? Oh, let's collaborate and do something different. I think it flourishes, and it's really, really exciting to see what happens.
Hey, if you're a business owner pulling your hair out over taxes, let me tell you, you're not alone. That was me for so many years, but I have a solution. Let me introduce you to Collective. Now, I am not kidding when I tell you I have lost so much sleep over tax season. And as an entrepreneur, there's mileage to track and transactions to log. And wait, is my plane ticket tax deductible? All of my bookkeeping and tax filing needs were met when I stopped DIYing my business finances and switched to Collective. They are a powerful team that handles all of my business's finances, so I can keep the focus on serving my clients and getting my free time back. Also, if you're an LLC ready to scale up your business, they even help you switch to an S Corp, which saves you so much money. And who doesn't love that? To get you started, get your first month free when you use the link in the show notes to sign up.
Okay, other tip, work with real couples. Work with real couples. Maybe I could be convinced that this rule doesn't have to happen. Maybe, but probably not. I just think, especially if you're advertising weddings and couples styled shoots, you got to be working with a real couple. Now, if you're working with Vogue runway models and you're doing a bride and groom themed editorial, that's different. But when we're talking about documentary work, we're talking about luxury styled shoots, we're talking about bride and groom, you need a bride and groom. Like, you need a real couple. So at least for me. So I'm only going to be hiring real couples. I mean, unless something really dramatically changes, I think it just is a game changer. They have great chemistry together, and you can also get to know them. I had my couples, I kind of put them on the spot, but I had them introduce themselves, say how they met, and maybe a thing or two they like about the other person, they admire about the other person. And that helps not just the couple feel like real humans, like they're not just a body wearing a pretty dress, but also for the photographers attending, feel like they have something to work off of. It's really hard to document true, authentic feelings and joy and natural smiles when you're just saying, haha, now smile. Like, we have to get to know our couples a little bit. It's nice for us to go, hey, like, you said you guys met on Hinge. That's so crazy. Can you think back to that very first date after you had messaged on Hinge? This is a total stranger from the internet. Can you believe you're married to them now? Like, that's insane. Okay, think back to that first conversation. What was it? That stuff is bread and butter to a real documentary hybrid photographer. That stuff is what I use to fuel all of my sessions. And honestly, the reason why people say, I feel your photos, I feel like myself in front of your camera. You have to get to know them. They're not just bodies. They're not just fancier hangers. They're real humans, and they have a story. And that story comes out in the photographs when we pull it out of them. All right. Another suggestion, another tip, pop in with suggestions mentioning what might work best for the whole group. So I popped in a couple times, again, not to try to micromanage, but when I saw everyone really crowding in and some girls kind of stepping backwards going, could we get something wider? It's really hard, again, when you're staring at beautiful people to feel like you have any restraint because you're like, I just want to photograph. But what I like to do is say, hey guys, for this group, I have an idea. What if we all start really wide? We'll do our big wide shots and then we'll go medium together. And that way, if people have a 50 mil or a 35 millimeter lens on, that'll be a great time for it. And then we'll all move into those macro close-ups. That structure helps a large group because otherwise people immediately start going for those medium and close-up shots and leaving out those, wider ones. Especially if someone's bringing just an 85 or a 50 mil to a styled shoot, they might not even think about I need to back up even further. And they're expecting everyone to move and they're not moving. So you want to just kind of give those suggestions if you see it happening. Okay. Another tip, give a break to yourself and to the attendees. I didn't do this last year, but I'm really glad I did it this year. We had a longer time to play with this year. I think it was 3.5 hour window of shooting. So about an hour and a half in, we had an outfit change. One of our models was leaving for the day, and the florist and the dress designer all needed to leave. So we did an hour and a half of shooting, and I said, hey, we're all going to take 5. The models got to use the restroom, change, get a bite to eat. We said our farewells to several of the vendors. Everyone else got to use the bathroom. It just was a good time to calm it down, reset, re-get in our groups, grab a snack, it was just nice. Cause again, sometimes you just go and you're just in like mindset, like go, 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 crunch, crunch, crunch. And it can be easy to get lost in the sauce and not feel even human, like not even take care of yourself because you're just shooting so fast and so much. So I'm glad we got to do, it was like about 10 minutes total. And it was really nice just to reset the room, reset everyone's nervous system. And personally, me and my event team, we swapped something. So we had a tablescape in front of a drapery, but during this break, we moved the table away, set up pillars, and put the ceremony flowers on top of it. So we like made a whole new arrangement of a corner of the room for people to photograph in that window. And that was really nice for us too. Okay. Tip. Send all of the vendor tags out immediately, like before people leave the room. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is to be the exclusive photographer at a styled shoot or the host of a styled shoot. And then people start posting BTS, sneak peeks, their actual photos, and they don't tag you. It's so frustrating. But what's worse is if you're one of the vendors like hair and makeup or florist or the dress gown designer or the boutique owner, and you don't get tagged at all. Because part of what they have agreed to is their services in exchange for the tagging and the extra exposure. So I always I work with an amazing event team. Shout out Amber Hansen Events. And Amber kind of reads my mind on this, but we've communicated on how I need those tags to go out before the girls leave the room. Even beforehand, even before the shoot starts would be ideal. But usually before it wraps up, she's sending it to the group email or the group text just to say, hey, if you're sharing any content from the day, every single vendor has to be tagged. Even if you slide it off of the story and hide it, I'd prefer you don't, but people are going to do what they're going to do. As long as the vendors are getting that option to share it in their stories and they're seeing it come in on the feed, that matters so much. So make sure everyone's got all the tags and they're all tagged correctly. Another tip, work with a team. I mentioned it just a second ago, but I have worked with an event planner for all of these wedding styled shoots. Some of the more casual ones I've just done in conjunction with Canon or the brand that's sponsoring it. But for the big ones that I'm actually wanting a huge ordeal or a larger scale event, it's very helpful to have an event team. These are your people that help you set up when you get there. They're the people that help you tear down and make sure the vendor checklist is done, making sure the venue's not mad at you, didn't scuff anything. If you broke something, it's itemized and you're going to pay for it. And, they make sure your invoices are on track with things and that every vendor's been paid. They're also, at least the way I work with this team, they're the point of contact. So when I'm in the middle of, handling the look of things and the aesthetic that I'm going for, they're the team that's the point of contact for texts and fielding any issues or if a vendor cancels, and then they bring any of that info that's relevant to you. It's very helpful. Shout out Amber and Taylor, queens. I've been to styled shoots where there is no event planner, ones that are kind of expensive, and then you're there and the poor photographer is, I was at one in Salt Lake City and the photographer was blowing up a kiddie pool in the middle of the desert and trying to fill it with bottled water because it was just her and a buddy hosting a styled shoot. It's not a bad thing. Overall, it was a fine experience, but it does get a lot easier when you're partnering with someone. I do pay my event team. It is another expense. And so make sure your ticket price is adjusted accordingly. But again, it's one of those things that I would rather pay a strong event team, be able to produce something and still make a profit than try to be Superwoman, try to do it all myself, and then be super stressed on the day of. To be honest, I could not have pulled this one off without an event team at all. Even if I got my friends to volunteer and my husband to arrive early, no. My husband did arrive early. We had probably, the 2 event planners, the venue coordinator, and a volunteer, and my husband and myself. So 6 bodies there about 2 hours early, setting everything up. The florist arrived early, so 7. We had lots of people there to help set up, but still time and extra hands are a game changer. It's very helpful. Okay. 3 more. Respect the venue. If you are hiring, or I guess signing a contract and renting out a venue space, respect the venue. I did a quick housekeeping announcement when we got there, letting all the people know, hey, treat the space like your home. it was expensive. It wasn't cheap to shoot at this venue. And I don't want to be held liable if someone breaks some things or scuffs up the floor or drags a chair across and makes an awkward, like, I don't know, ding in the floor or something. So you just really want to, not only as a person, respect the venue, make sure you read all the rules. Don't tape anything to the wall or pin anything to the wall. Bring pipe and drape if you want anything, interesting put up. But it's just a big deal to them too, as the venue. You don't want to have a bad experience with them and they go like, wow, I never want to work with that girl again. So respect the space. Okay. I kind of just mentioned this, but another tip is to start with an intro words. Start with an intro about who you are and what you're doing, and then highlight the sponsors, the vendors, and the team. I don't mind public speaking. Obviously, I have a podcast, so this isn't scary for me, but I know that could feel a little scary for some of you. I just think it's important to kind of say hi in person. For me, a lot of these girls have never been to something that I've hosted, only know me through Instagram, or maybe they've been to one of my events, but like they don't know me personally. We've never had coffee. We've never had lunch together. I don't know them really. So we're just kind of like loose peers, but not like actual, vendor friends or close people. So I thought it was important just to kind of introduce myself and make sure everyone was aware of who I was and be a personable person, right? Like invite conversation so that we can continue the connection afterwards. I heard a horror story of someone who flew across the country to attend a multi-day styled shoot. And she said that the photographer host never introduced herself, never gave ground rules. And it was an overnight experience where everyone's supposed to stay in the same house. She booked her own lodging away from everyone else and never showed up to the right place. They didn't even know how to get in. Could you imagine paying thousands of dollars, flying across the country? You go to the Airbnb and you're like, hello? And no one's there. She's like, oh, sorry. Here's the door code. I'm staying in somewhere else. No, show your face, be a person. It's better that way. I also had a couple sponsors for this event. We had Aftershoot Co., which shout out to them. If you are, this is a little, unpaid for ad. If you are looking to speed up your editing process, I use Aftershoot Co. It's an AI-based powerful tool. You can use it for culling, but what I do is I use it for editing. I cull manually in Aftershoot because it goes pretty quickly. And then with editing, you build your own AI profile that learns your style. Super, super cool. And then you hit edit and it gets you 85% of the way there. It's really sweet how it works. It doesn't do everything for you, nor should it. It's just a computer, but it really reduces, I would say, about 3 to 4 hours of the editing process. I would say I used to spend about 8 to 10 hours per gallery just editing. Now I spend probably 4 to 5 hours per gallery editing. So again, it's not gonna get you done tomorrow, but I find it very, very helpful. So I use Aftershoot. I think I have an extra code. If you guys want a code, use it. It's super great. They sponsored this event. Thank you, Aftershoot. They helped give us some scholarship money so that more people could attend at a lower rate, which was great. And then I had another venue. Okay, my words. You guys get it. It's at this hour of the podcast where I am just struggling to speak. I had another sponsor, Midwest Photo. They're fantastic. They gave us free film cameras to use throughout the week and free developing on those same film scans, and some free gear rentals. If you're specifically in Central Ohio, use Midwest Photo. They're awesome, especially if you ever want to try out gear. I recommend renting something before you buy it. Spend $60 on a lens for a wedding for the weekend before you drop $5,000 on that lens. You want to learn your gear before you buy something that can't be returned. And then another venue sponsor, vendor sponsor, Seasons Journals. They're awesome. They do everyday positive journals. They also do themed journals for life's memories and milestones. They have a pregnancy journal, marriage journal, engagement season journal. They're awesome. So check them out as well. If I have any codes and links, I'll put them where you put them, in the notes. All right. Finally, my last, but definitely not the least tip. The least important tip. Just the last tip. Number 15, post the living shapoopies out of the whole experience. Post the crap out of it when you're marketing. Get excited, get people excited, post about it as it's happening, reshare everyone's stories, post when it's over, post the reviews. You get the idea. The whole thing with social proof is that word of mouth is the bread and butter to running a successful business. If I attend something and I go home and I start sharing about it, odds are my entire following is like, oh, what was that? And they'll be more interested in the next one. So as a host, it made me smile and cry and be so happy to come home exhausted, happy tears after such an amazing event. And instead of being like, did they like it? Did they hate it? Did they hate me? To instantly see my whole Instagram inbox flooded with happy messages, positive reviews, and full photos and stories and BTS from everyone, that made me feel like I did a good job. And I knew I just got a ton of eyes on my page and people going, well, when's the next one? I have FOMO. Like, when can I sign up? Like, what's next? So post away, because you never know who's watching and who's going to be interested in what you're hosting next. That was a lot. Guys, that was a lot. That was a monolith of an episode, but I hope this added value to you. I hope if you're hosting a styled shoot that this was worth it for you and that you got some new tips. Let me know what of these tips was helpful for you. I can't wait to maybe even attend your styled shoot. Comment if you've got one. Let me know where it is. I'm down. I hop on planes. Let's do it. I'm so appreciative of you. Like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.